Isaac sat in his luxuriously silk-covered padded dining chair as it floated above the cobblestone patio. Ira sat on folded legs before the marble altar in the center of the courtyard. Her eyes closed. Effulgent moonbeams created a white halo of Ira's bald scalp. The chair hovered, moving forward a few feet at a time. When Ira sucked in a deep breath, the chair would halt, wobble. But when the wraith regained her strength, the chair continued floating forward. His wraith had finally proved to be more than a ghostly house-sitter and orifice for his sexual deposits. Now, absorbing the potent karmic elixir of the moon, prepared exclusively for the gods and forces of the cosmic sprawl, and she was channeling it through the astral waves through psychokinesis to power the hovering of his chair. Isaac's skin still bubbled and burned. Small chunky portions of his shoulder, chest, and thighs had fallen away, revealing infected muscles that leaked black juices. A beastly butcher of Babylonian genesis might as well have cleaved him, flayed him, and served him to Hadean crows. What shame and disgrace had he brought his mother? And what ails of this corrupted crumb of a world had his mate been left to? The entity that attacked him in the woods the previous night had weighed as heavy on his alarmed mind as the whereabouts of his eternal mate. The image of that roaring, flaming skull, and the tall, dominating figure along the edge of the clearing. It had been something foreign of this realm. More so, it was something foreign beyond the long reaches of this world itself. Never had he in all his centuries encountered anything as nearly as deadly as whatever that being was. And he'd gotten the most cursory whiff of its scent before it had attempted to torch him to death. And the scent had been bewilderingly familiar. Animal-like, almost. But not quite that of the potent essence of Geminus, but mixed with the salivating blood of a mortal human. And yet, there was another tingle of blood that was far more obnoxious and noisome, appalling to the senses and his soul. And whatever potent source of arcanium energy the being had used, he'd used it well, and managed to concentrate it far more intensely than Isaac could have ever fathomed any mortal being be capable of doing. The fire of the spectral entity burned deep and burned hard. Burned so much that his natural healing couldn't replenish his flesh and bones quick enough. The blistery skin would begin to crack, peel, and ooze as quickly as his body could mend the open wounds. Isaac feared that the entity who'd conjured this magic had laced it with an unknown bacteria from the farthest depths of space, something Isaac had never come into contact with before, and therefore even his advanced immune system was powerless against its savage, microscopic devouring. These ruminations led Isaac to the only logical conclusion. This thing was not mortal. It was some kind of god and it was fucking with him. What in the blackest lakes of Turok had his mother gotten him involved with? A conspiracy of stars and planets that had garnered the attention of a vengeful god being of unreckonable force. The scheme had been simple. Bestow his mate's essence into the black Narkush stone, then assign the Narkush to the new vessel so that his mate may possess her and the child within her, as desired by Galmoria. They would rule the Zodiac races. The scheme, however, was not proving to be as simple as that. But the best laid schemes of gods and Yag-Yots often fall to shambles. That phantasmic beast that roasted his hide had changed everything. His mate's soul now resided somewhere in the physical body of another, and she was without guidance during this crucial time of her evolutionary stage. The cub was of another male seed, and just hours ago that very thought made him seethe. But the Geminus' essence now flowed in the cub's veins, a blood that flowed from his own mate's essence. Much to his surprise, a a protective, loving instinct grew inside Isaac. He would give his life for the cub, his son, as easily as he would give it for his mate. And yet, this would be an unprecedented geminous birth, as only one offspring, not two, would be birthed. Several times over the past hours, he'd considered that this was most likely Galmoria's plan. To have a geminous birth, only one child that would possess the carnal strength and power of two, but living in one body. Yet, the mysteries of his mother's ultimate design still remained hidden deep within the abysmal tendrils of her foul mind, and her unnerving placidness concerning any and all of her stratagems. It was as if she'd acquired an ancient and prophet gamebook that served as a personal manual for the future. Either that, or she was a very cunning actress. But what of this black Narkush gem? Isaac knew nothing from any corners of lore about a black Narkush. The gem had appeared as though it came from the dankest depths of a black hole, where it had been formed and shaped by the megaton pressures of 1,000 dreadful universes. And he'd killed his mate and transcended her soul to that black stone without a breath of hesitation. Had he damned his own fusion with his mate by the application of this repulsive stone? As soon as he had reclaimed his mate, which he would do immediately upon his full recovery, he would promptly seek out proper time with Galmoria to offer his censure of this debased Narkush gem. It had taken 2 hours for Ira to float him down the staircase. Each minute was another minute away from his mate, another delay of his dominion of the multiverses. Galmoria would be queen, but he and his mate would be above all other races from Texas to the stretches of reality's infinite fabric. Many had been king, queen, sultan, or even emperor of a realm or a world, but none had been the rulers of the multiverse. From the grim, war-raved world of Turok to the sky-swept castles of Raylin and beyond, he'd be the sultan or king or emperor of multiple worlds and races, and they would suffer, bleed, and die in the elements as they crafted the most extraordinary shrines in his image. The people of this world, Earth, would gather under his beastly banner and erect a two-faced sphinx, his face and Lynn's, and the monument would cover the entire realm of Texas, buried beneath the bronze and gold stones. Even if Isaac had been reduced to nothing more than a slimy, greasy, dripping lump of gristle and putrefaction, he'd have oozed his way to Galmoria's altar, even if he'd had to drag himself by his own roasted tongue and cock, because soon he would be clutching the infinite borders of the Zodiac throne. He could not deny the appeal of ruling the multiverse, but his desire for the throne paled in comparison to his need to protect his mate and unborn cub. His ascension would ensure freedom and safety for them, for if he did not assume the throne, another would be chosen, and he, his twin, and his cub, as well as his future cubs, would be under another's rule. The chair legs finally met the wet ground near the fountain altar. Ira closed her eyes. Isaac lifted calmly and comfortably, while Ira telepathically guided his broken body toward the fountain, and, with the gentleness of a new mother, she lowered him into the crystal water. The water, charged with the vitality of Galmoria's womb, foamed around him, cool and soothing. The eyes of each of the 3 statues glowed purple. The water seeped into his pores and his scars. For now, his twin was safe, but her soul cried. From fear and apprehension, and from loneliness. She needed him. She was afraid, but alive. And she'd fed too. For when she had, he'd tasted and felt the nourishment of the stag she'd eaten. Even if it hadn't been enough to improve his mood, it had still eased his spirit knowing she'd fed herself. Soon, very soon, he would fetch his mate and fulfill her need. Then they would leave this realm of Texas, only to return with an army of zodiacs to crush and conquer them.